She leaned over me, her silver eyes glowing, and whispered, "You said yes. That means you're mine now, and I had absolutely no idea what I had just agreed to."
The war had been over for 3 days when they found me. I was lying in the ruins of what used to be Forward Base Kilo 7, half buried under collapsed canvas and broken supply crates. My left leg was pinned. My radio was dead. And the sky above the torn tent flap was no longer the blue I remembered. It was a deep, bruised violet, streaked with the silver trails of ships that didn't belong to any nation on Earth. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. I was delirious. So when the tent flap opened and a figure leaned over me, tall, precise, wearing a dark tactical uniform with a red cross on each arm, I assumed I was dreaming. She had braided hair the color of dark honey, sharp blue eyes that caught the pale alien light filtering through the canvas, and a face so calm it was almost frightening. She tilted her head, studying me the way a scientist studies a specimen, not cruel but clinical. "Human male," she said softly, not to me, but apparently into a comm device near her collar. "Alive. Injured. Non-combatant status confirmed." "I'm a soldier," I rasped. She looked at me then. Really looked. And something shifted in those silver blue eyes. Not warmth exactly, but interest. "You were," she said. "The war is over." Her name, I would later learn, was Seraphyn-Vael. She was a medical officer of the Vaelori collective, the alien civilization that had descended not to conquer, but to absorb. They didn't want our land. They wanted integration. A merging of species, cultures, genetics. They called it the joining. Humanity called it the strangest peace treaty ever signed. But I didn't know any of that yet. All I knew was that she was cutting away the debris with tools I'd never seen, and her hands were steady, and she smelled faintly of something like rain on hot metal. "This is going to hurt," she said. "Everything hurts," I told her. "Then this will feel familiar." She almost smiled. Almost. They moved me to a field medical tent, their version, which was cleaner and quieter and lit with soft bioluminescent panels that pulsed gently like a slow heartbeat. I was the only human there. The other patients were Vaelori, tall, angular beings who watched me with open curiosity. Seraphyn-Vael checked on me every few hours. She spoke little, worked efficiently, and never answered my questions directly. But she always came back. On the 3rd night, when the pain medication had made me loose and careless with my words, she was changing the dressing on my leg, and I watched her face in the blue-white light and said, without thinking, "You're beautiful, you know that?" Like genuinely. "Has anyone ever told you that?" I paused, looked up. "No. That's a crime," I muttered. "Where I come from, someone like you. You'd have people lining up. To do what? I don't know. To take you to dinner. To be with you. To call you theirs." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "And you? Would you line up?" I laughed, the delirious half-medicated laugh of a man who had nothing left to lose. "Sure. Sign me up." "Yes, baby." I was joking. Fiercely I was joking. She nodded once, slowly, and went back to work. I didn't think about it again until the morning Commander Davith walked in. Davith was Seraphyn-Vael's superior, tall even for a Vaelori, with a severe face and eyes like polished obsidian. He stood at the foot of my cot and looked at me the way generals look at problems they haven't solved yet. "You are the human who made a joining declaration to Medical Officer Seraphyn-Vael," he said. It was not a question. I blinked. "I'm sorry, the what?" "A joining declaration. Verbal confirmation of intent to bond. Witnessed by 3 Vaelori personnel." He tilted his head. "You said, and I quote, 'Yes, baby.'" The silence that followed was the loudest I had ever experienced. "I was joking," I said carefully. Vaelori do not joke about joining. His tone was flat. Final. She accepted. The declaration stands. I opened my mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. What does that even mean? It means, said a voice from the tent entrance, that you are my spouse declared. And under collective law, I am now responsible for your recovery, your integration, and your well-being. Seraphyn-Vael stepped inside. She was carrying a medical case in one hand and a data scroll in the other. She looked exactly the same as always. Calm, precise, unreadable. But there was something different in the way she looked at me now. She looked at me like I was hers. You can contest it, she said, stopping beside my cot. You have 72 hours to file a retraction of declaration. I will not stop you. I stared at her. And if I don't, then in 72 hours, you become the first human spouse in Vaelori record. I paused. I reviewed your file. You have no family remaining. No base to return to. No home coordinates flagged as active. Another pause, smaller. Neither do I. The tent was quiet except for the soft pulse of the bioluminescent lights. You looked up my file, I said slowly. I am thorough. Is that why you accepted? Because I had nowhere to go. She was still for a moment. Then she set the data scroll on my cot, opened to a page I couldn't read, full of symbols that meant nothing to me yet, and said, I accepted because you looked at me and said I was beautiful. And no one has ever said that before. Not in any language I speak. She met my eyes. I wanted to know what it would be like. To be looked at like that again. I didn't file the retraction. Not on hour 1. Not on hour 48. Not when the 72 hours passed and Seraphyn-Vael came to my cot with a quiet expression and a small ceremonial band of Vaelori metal that she placed on my wrist without ceremony or fanfare. It is done, she said simply. What happens now? Yes. She looked at the band on my wrist, then at my face. And for the first time, truly the first time, she smiled. Careful. Like something she wasn't quite used to doing. Now, she said, you heal. And then you come with me. Where? She picked up her medical case. Home, she said, and walked out of the tent. I looked down at the band on my wrist. It was warm. It pulsed faintly, like the lights, like a slow heartbeat, like something alive. I had said yes as a joke. But sitting there in the alien light, with a violet sky outside and the war behind me, and a Vaelori medic who had just called me spouse walking away with my entire future in her calm, careful hands, I found that I didn't want to take it back. Not even a little.